Doesn't happen every day. But because Donald Trump is actually, by far, the most cowardly president we have ever had, who's pretending to be a tough guy, he has backed down in his first presidency and now in this one more than any other president has done it. He backs down within a day of making decisions, pulls them back. Donald Trump backed down today, and no one was surprised. There are people who have to make their living based on knowing when Donald Trump is going to back down. They include the richest people in America and their day-to-day investment practitioners on Wall Street. Wall Street knows that Donald Trump is a pathological liar, which everyone knows. And Wall Street knows that Donald Trump doesn't understand anything about economics. Nothing. Wall Street has been listening to Donald Trump very carefully for years, and they've never once heard Donald Trump accurately describe what a tariff is. The truth of tariffs forced Donald Trump to back down today. Wall Street knows that Donald Trump lies every time he talks about tariffs. Everyone on Wall Street knows that no foreign country has ever paid an American tariff and never will. Wall Street knows the only people who pay Trump tariffs are people in the United States who pay for imported goods, like, say, coffee. Unless you're one of the lucky ones who has tasted the very small batch and very expensive coffee grown in Hawaii, not one drop of coffee you have swallowed in your life came from an American coffee bean. Every ounce of coffee you have swallowed came from another country. According to Donald Trump, the United States of America should be buying nothing from other countries. Tell that to the 211,000 people working in Starbucks just in the United States and the 361,000 people working in Starbucks worldwide. The coffee economy in the United States employs literally millions of people, all based on a product imported from other countries, imported from Africa, imported from South America. And this country could not survive a day without coffee, and we all know it. I could go on and on, listing examples of why international trade is a good and necessary thing. That is a fact that has been known since before the American colonies were settled, but Donald Trump doesn't know it. And so Wall Street knows that their job is to teach their slowest student, Donald Trump, whenever he goes dangerously too far on his illegal Trump tariff crusade. And the Trump tariffs are illegal because the Constitution puts Congress exclusively in charge of tariffs, just as Congress is exclusively in charge of income tax rates, but a provision that entered federal law during the Cold War provided the president with the authority to change individual tariffs only for national security reasons. The intention at the time was to allow the president to personally change tariffs in the event of war. No one writing that law thought that such tariffs could ever, under any circumstances, be imposed by the President of the United States on the most faithful and peaceful and supportive neighbor any country in the world has ever had, Canada. And so lost in the noise about the Trump tariffs is that very simple fact that they are illegal because none of them have the slightest relationship to national security. Wall Street did its job today and forced Donald Trump to back down from the most destructive aspect of his demented and illegal Trump tariffs on Canada and Mexico, the tariffs on automobiles entering the United States from Canada and Mexico. After 24 hours of that tariff being in place and probably not actually being paid by anyone, Donald Trump backed down, really backed down. And it was a classic Trump reversal, which he pretends is not a reversal, saying that he's going to pause the tariff on automobiles from Canada and Mexico for 30 days. And he will pause it again. He will back down again. That tariff will probably never go into effect because Donald Trump will back down, because Wall Street will once again convince Donald Trump of just how insane that idea is. Wall Street does that by reacting defensively to the Trump tariffs, which means a dramatic drop in the stock market as investors seek safety in the middle of the Trump economic chaos and they sell off stocks. That's what happened the first time Donald Trump had his tariffs ready to go against Canada and Mexico. The stock market collapsed, and Donald Trump was able to withstand about 2 hours of the collapse the day before the tariffs were supposed to go into effect. And by lunchtime, then Donald Trump announced that he was going to pause those tariffs. He wasn't going to put them into effect the next day. He would pause them for 30 days. Then the stock market started to work its way back up the next day. This time around, the stock market thought they'd figured out Donald Trump. They believed Donald Trump would pull the same trick. He'd lie and threaten the tariffs, and then at the last minute, pause the tariffs. He would not impose the tariffs. But this time they guessed wrong. And the most economically ignorant president in history actually did impose those tariffs yesterday. And once again, the stock market crashed. In the middle of the trading day today, when the White House announced that Donald Trump would pause the tariffs on automobiles for 30 days, the stock market digested that news and started to go back up, to exactly no one's surprise. One of Donald Trump's favorite lies until last night was that the stock market just loves him and that the stock market was never higher than under his first Trump presidency. And that was a lie, of course. The stock market was higher under President Biden than it was under Donald Trump's presidency. In fact, the highest point the stock market has ever reached in its history was in Joe Biden's last month of the presidency. And last night, Donald Trump spoke for 99 minutes in an incoherent, rambling, lifeless, exhausting presentation with nothing designed to appeal to anyone who hasn't already voted for him. Presidents use addresses to Congress and to the nation to try to reach out to voters that they don't already have on their side. Not Donald Trump. In those rambling 99 minutes, Donald Trump never said the words stock market. When is the last time you heard Donald Trump give a long, self-congratulatory speech without telling you how great the Trump stock market is doing? Donald Trump was appearing, giving that speech on the night of a stock market crash caused by him, and he didn't say a word about the stock market in his address to Congress and the country, a country that was worried about the stock market. Not one word. The stock market crash was created by 1 day of the Trump tariffs being in effect. 1 day, 1 day. And at the end of that 1 day, Donald Trump stood up in the House of Representatives and addressed the Congress and the nation, and he did not say one word about what happened that day because of his tariffs. He said nothing about the tariffs that went into effect yesterday. Nothing about that in his speech. The single biggest news of the day worldwide, created by Donald Trump, the Trump tariffs, not mentioned by Donald Trump in that speech last night because he was afraid of what he did. He was standing there last night terrified of what he did with those crazy tariffs. He was so afraid of what he did that he literally did not know what to say about it last night. He talked about tariffs generally, but not about what he had actually done yesterday. And here's one of the things he said about tariffs that actually proved his tariffs are illegal.
Tariffs are about making America rich again and making America great again, and it's happening, and it will happen rather quickly. There'll be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that. It won't be much.
It's supposed to be about national security. His tariffs are legally supposed to be about national security. That's the only way they can be legal. Donald Trump is too ignorant, of course, to know that he was admitting in that statement that his tariffs are illegal. And of course, by a little disturbance, he meant a stock market crash and increasing prices here in the United States. The biggest problem Donald Trump ran into yesterday when he finally decided to go forward with the stupidest economic idea ever advanced by a president of the United States is that the world stopped listening to Donald Trump about tariffs yesterday. And they started listening to someone else who actually knows what he's talking about.
the United States launched a trade war against Canada, their closest partner and ally, their closest friend. At the same time, they're talking about working positively with Russia, appeasing Vladimir Putin, a lying, murderous dictator. Make that make sense. Canadians are reasonable, and we are polite, but we will not back down from a fight. Not when our country and the well-being of everyone in it is at stake.
That man got Wall Street's attention yesterday, which made them even more worried about what was coming, because clearly the Canadian government has every intention of fighting Donald Trump's illegal tariffs in a way that will be very, very harmful to the economy of the United States. So harmful that the Wall Street Journal actually used the word Great Depression in a predictive headline of what could happen because of Donald Trump's trade war. The last Great Depression in the United States in the 1930s was actually caused by these Smoot-Hawley tariffs, the single stupidest economic idea of the 20th century in the United States, an idea that came from Republicans in Congress and that a Republican president went along with but did not actually champion to the extent that Donald Trump champions his own illegal tariffs. The problem for